I'm Laura Hill with New York Natives. We're here in Madison Square Park, New York City, speaking with Najla Said, whose fabulous new book called
Looking for Palestine, Growing Up Confused in an Arab American Family.
will be out in August, and we're going to talk about it now. Okay, so Najla, tell us a little bit about your book, why you wrote it, who your audience is, how it all came about.
I just wrote this like 15-minute piece, which ultimately became an hour-and-a-half play, about growing up in New York City on the Upper West Side and going to private school, being the daughter of a very outspoken Palestinian American scholar and a Lebanese mom. So I grew up Arab American in New York City during the 80s when like nobody wanted to be from Beirut. And and going to Beirut and getting stuck in the war, and then coming back and going to this very like sort of fancy school and just trying to fit in and fitting in and not really fitting in the Middle East and not fitting in here and trying to find my place. And when I did the play, I realized that it was like a very sort of disarming way into this very intense topic that people get uncomfortable talking about and listening to people talk about because it's so loaded with, and then people start throwing facts around. And what I'd realized was that I'd grown up just talking about my experiences and my family and not really knowing much about politics and peace treaties and facts and wars and just kind of talking about how I felt and what happened to me when I was here and when I was there. And I found that that was a really easy way for people to understand what was going on.
This is a huge undertaking, and a lot of that stemmed, of course, from being the daughter of such an extraordinary scholar and outspoken activist for Palestine and Palestinian rights, Edward Said, who's a great hero of mine as a graduate student in this and that. So being the child of someone like that in New York, of course, how does that, I mean, it's like the famous child, question.
Right.
How does that condition then how you get to yourself, how you get to a place where you can talk about these things?
There are so many different ways of looking at it. There's the famous child thing but my dad wasn't like a movie star. So there's that element where people who respect him and like, for his work and stuff, it's more of a like how you feel about, I don't know, Shakespeare, I'm not to say my dad is famous, but just to say in that regard, it's more of a respect for their work as opposed to like a celebrity thing. He's famous, he made movies, he's rich, whatever. So there was that, which is a different kind of awe that people had around him. And then there's also the two different worlds of like him being on TV talking about Palestinians in the Middle East and people saying all sorts of crazy things like, oh, he's a terrorist and this and that, which he absolutely was not. And then there's the other half, which is when I went to college and I realized he was like this academic hero. And like he changed
everything,
history of academia, and I still kind of struggle with that stuff. So there was that. And then also I didn't really get it. How was I supposed to understand? So like a lot of the book is me as a kid. Ironically, my father's writing this book, Orientalism, in the other room about how we perceive people from the Middle East, and I'm like watching I Dream of Jeannie and being like, how come she gets to be blonde and do magic?
Unbelievable.
And I'm like, have a mustache and just like an idiot who can't, so like, it's sort of that. It's just sort of the funny part of your dad's just your dad. And also growing up there, especially in that like part of society, it's like there's a certain respect you get for being like the daughter of someone who's very renowned. Of course.
A lot of polarity in this experience. I mean, you really have on so many levels had this juxtaposition happening, from the most personal, even just to carving out your own identity. One is this famous person's child, and then again as this Palestinian activist, and then in a city that is so polarized about Israel and Palestine. I mean,
it's a lot. And then also,
and like, you're so normal. How did that happen?
So not normal.
Well, Najla, thank you so much for spending the
Thank you.
afternoon with us in Madison Square Park. And we loved learning about your book. We cannot wait. I cannot wait for my signed copy.
Of course. Everyone in the whole world is going to get a signed
Everyone in the whole world. So thank you from New York
kind.
natives. We love to have you, and we can't wait to talk to you again.
Thank you.